My wife lost her job, so I took double shifts, came home exhausted, barely slept, still tried to make her smile. One afternoon, I surprised her with lunch and found her laughing in the kitchen with her ex. "You're predictable," she told me later. "He's not." I didn't say a word. I just walked out. That night, I opened our shared drive and saw a folder labeled Exit Plan. What I found inside made me.
We met in 2012.
Small outdoor concert. She dropped her drink. I handed her mine. Dumb movie kind of moment. I was 27. She was 25. Married 3 years later. We weren't rich, but we were stable. She taught second grade. I worked at a parts plant. I made enough. We had goals, maybe a cabin one day, maybe kids. She wanted to open a bookstore someday. Stuff that made sense when we said it out loud. Then last year, she came home quiet. She stood at the door, arms crossed. I remember I was undoing my work boots, hands greasy from the line. She said, "They cut my job. Budget stuff." She looked tired, but not angry. I stood up and hugged her. I said, "We'll get through it." And I meant that. That's when I picked up extra hours. Overtime. Weekends. It wasn't easy. I'd come home past 10 some nights, body aching, head spinning. But I still smiled when I walked in. Still asked her how her day was. Still picked up her favorite snacks, left notes in the bathroom mirror. I was trying. At first, she said thank you. She made dinner. Rubbed my shoulder some nights. But that faded fast. She'd sit on the couch all day. Her laptop open, but never working on anything. She started going out more. Said she needed space. Said being home all the time was suffocating. Then came that Thursday. I got off early. Machines at the plant overheated, had to shut down mid-shift. I picked up lunch from her favorite Thai place, the one with the tiny egg rolls she always liked. I walked into the house quiet. Didn't want to scare her. But when I stepped into the kitchen, I heard laughing. It was her. Laughing. And he was there.
Tall guy. Done.
Same guy from that old Facebook photo she once said she barely talks to anymore. I froze. They were standing near the sink. He had a glass in his hand. She was wearing leggings and his hoodie. He turned around like it was normal. Smiled and said, "Oh, hey. Didn't know you were off today."
She didn't even flinch.
Just said, "It's not what it looks like." I didn't answer. I set the food on the counter. I looked at her once. Then walked out the front door. I didn't even take the truck. Just walked. I didn't know where I was going. I ended up behind our old high school. Sat in the parking lot. Didn't cry. Didn't call anyone. I stayed there until past 10. When I got home, the lights were off. She was in bed. Pretending to sleep, maybe. I didn't ask questions. I sat at the kitchen table and stared at nothing. Hours passed. At some point, I remembered our shared drive. We used it for tax stuff, photos, receipts. Dumb thing to think about, but I wanted to see something that used to matter to both of us. That's when I saw it. A new folder. Titled Exit Plan. I clicked it. And that's when everything cracked. There were screenshots of texts. Long conversations. Her and him. Back months. Before she lost her job. Her telling him she felt trapped. Him saying he always knew they'd find their way back. Her calling me safe but boring. One message. He's predictable. You're not. There were spreadsheets. One for finances. One with timelines. She listed the car, the house, my salary. She had written notes like, "Wait until March and check legal aid." There was a subfolder for lawyer. Inside were photos of me on the couch, in bed, holding a beer. Nothing bad, but enough to make me look lazy. She was building a case. Even worse, there was a document, a custody affidavit. We don't have kids. But she was drafting it like we had tried, and I refused. She was preparing to tell people I didn't want children, that I shut her down. That's how she was going to leave. Paint me as the guy who ruined her dream, while I worked double shifts, while she laughed in my kitchen with him. I sat there staring at the screen until my hands went numb. And that's when I made a decision. I wouldn't ask her why. I wouldn't yell. I wouldn't give her the messy fight she was probably hoping for. I was going to give her exactly what she wanted, but not in the way she expected. The next morning, I acted normal. I made coffee, like always. She walked into the kitchen in the same robe she always wore, acting like the day before didn't happen. Said, "Morning," like it was just any day. I nodded and handed her a cup. I didn't say anything about the guy. Didn't ask who he was, how long he'd been coming around, or why she looked at him the way she used to look at me. I watched her closely. She seemed calm, like she thought I was just going to let it slide, like I'd sweep it under the rug to keep the peace. That told me something important. She thought she was smarter than me. I spent the next few days collecting everything. I logged into every account she had access to. Our insurance,
Bank.
mortgage. I took screenshots. I saved copies. She was planning to pull money slowly and make it look like regular bills. She already started 2 small amounts. Nothing I noticed until I checked carefully. She even had a new account open.
Different bank.
Same last name, different address. I don't even know whose place she used. Maybe his. She was already 1 foot out the door. I started sleeping in the guest room. Told her I was too tired from work. She didn't fight it. I started moving things. 1 drawer at a time. I took my personal files, tools, even my dad's watch, things I wouldn't want left behind. I kept them in my locker at the plant. Bit by bit, like someone slowly packing for a trip they don't want anyone to know about. Then I hired a lawyer.
Quietly.
Not the kind you find on a billboard. Someone private. Local guy. I paid cash up front. Showed him the folder. He raised his eyebrows and said, "You've got everything you need. When you're ready, we'll move." I wasn't just planning to leave her. I was planning to let her jump, then pull the net out just before she landed. A week later, I got home early again. She wasn't there. Her car was gone. I checked the GPS app we still had for insurance discounts. She was 20 miles out, some suburb I didn't recognize. I waited. 3 hours later, she came back. Lipstick smudged. Wearing new earrings I didn't buy. I asked calm, "You have a good night?" She looked at me, eyes wide for a second. Then she smiled.
Yeah.
I met some friends. She didn't even bother lying well anymore. That's when I knew. She thought she'd already won. 3 days later, I pulled the final thread. I opened a new bank account. In my name only. Moved half our savings. Enough to not raise flags, but enough to matter. I started using a different debit card. She didn't notice. She was distracted, always texting, always grinning at her phone. I watched her from the hallway one night. She was in bed, facing the wall, whispering into her phone. She said, "He's getting weird. I think he knows, but he's not saying anything. I don't care anymore. We're so close." That was the moment I felt something switch in me. Not sadness. Not even rage. Just clarity. I called her sister the next day. Casual, just catching up. We were never that close, but I kept it friendly. Then I asked a simple question. "Hey, did she ever mention wanting to move out your way?" Her sister paused. Then said, "Wait, she's moving?" I said, "Oh, maybe I misunderstood." "Forget I asked." Now I knew for sure she was planning to disappear without telling anyone until it was too late. That night, I pretended to be asleep on the couch. Around 1 a.m., I heard the front door click. I looked through the window. She got into a silver sedan. Not her car. His. I called a buddy of mine who worked maintenance at a property management firm. Asked him to look something up. "You ever heard of this guy?" Gave him the name from the texts. He called back 2 hours later.
Yeah.
"He's on the lease of one of our short-term furnished units. Paid up 6 months in advance." I said, "Address?" He gave it to me. It was the same suburb where her GPS showed up that night. That's when I drove out there. I didn't knock. I didn't go in. I just watched. She was standing on the balcony, laughing into her phone. Next to her, on a little patio table, was the same photo frame we used to keep in our bedroom. The one with the beach photo from our anniversary trip to Oregon. but my face had been replaced. Same frame.
New guy.
She didn't know I was there. I took a photo.
Zoomed in.
Saved it. Then I drove to the plant, grabbed my locker stuff, and called my lawyer. I said, move forward. Freeze joint accounts. File under abandonment. Send her the papers directly to that address. He said, done. But I wasn't finished. I went home, cleaned out the rest of my things, and left her one thing behind, her exit plan folder. Printed, laying open on the kitchen table. I put a yellow sticky note on top. Just 3 words. You were right. She didn't call the first night. I figured she was in shock. Probably walked into the kitchen and saw that folder. Probably opened it, thinking I'd printed it to beg her to stay or throw it in her face. But then she'd see the note and realize she wasn't ahead of anything anymore. Next morning, I got a call from our shared bank's fraud department. She tried to withdraw $5,000 from one of the frozen accounts. The woman on the line said, just confirming this was you. I said, no, it wasn't. And thank you for the alert. She called 2 hours later. Blocked number. I answered. Her voice was tight, forced. What the hell is this? I didn't say anything. You went through my stuff? Still quiet. You can't just take money, I said flat. It was our money. I took half. The lawyer has the records. Silence. Then she said, you're doing this to hurt me.
I said, no.
I'm doing this to stop you from doing more damage.
Click.
That was it. A few days later, her sister called me. She said, hey. She's saying you're trying to ruin her life. That you set her up. I didn't explain. I just said, did she tell you about the folder? She went quiet. Then she said, she told me you were emotionally abusive. I laughed once.
Couldn't help it.
Then I said, she can say what she wants. Just tell her the papers are coming. I don't think her sister believed her after that. Not fully. Word got around fast.
Her mom emailed me.
Said she was deeply disappointed but not surprised. That line stuck with me. Not surprised. Made me wonder who else had seen what I ignored for years. 1 week after the papers were sent, she tried to come home. I was gone, of course. She messaged me. You left me nothing. I replied, I left you exactly what you planned for. She never responded. 2 weeks after she got served, I was standing in line at the grocery store when I saw him. Her ex. The one from the kitchen. The one she called unpredictable. He was 2 aisles over, grabbing beer and frozen pizza. Looked tired. Worn out. Didn't see me. I waited in the parking lot. Not for a fight. I just wanted to know. When he came out, I stepped in front of him. He stopped short. Gave me a look like he expected me to throw a punch.
I said, relax.
I just have a question. He shrugged. Shoot. You really think she was gonna stay with you? He looked off, like he hadn't even considered that until now. Then he muttered, she said it was over with you. I nodded. She said a lot of things. I turned and walked away. I didn't need anything else. He wasn't the plan. He was a stepping stone. A few days later, a mutual friend texted me. Someone I hadn't talked to in months. Hey man, I heard what happened. She's telling people you snapped. That you drained her accounts and ghosted. I didn't argue. I just sent back a photo. The one of her standing on that balcony, holding our frame with his face in it. Underneath it, I wrote, she made her choice. I just got out of the way. He didn't respond after that. But not everyone stayed quiet. She lost a freelance gig she'd picked up. Word got around. The client, someone who knew both of us, called and apologized to me. He said, I didn't want to be in the middle, but I've seen enough. I didn't feel good about it. I didn't feel much of anything. That's the thing they don't tell you. When you finally expose the lie, you don't feel relief. You feel empty. 3 months later, I heard she moved again. New apartment. Not with him. I doubt they lasted long after the money stopped. I never reached out. Never looked her up again. But sometimes, when I'm driving home late at night, I catch myself looking into houses with the lights on. Families at the table. Couples on the couch. And I wonder how many of them are sitting next to someone planning their exit. About 6 months after I left, I got a letter forwarded from our old address. It was from a storage facility. Apparently, she had rented a unit in both our names.
I didn't know about it.
She must have forgotten I was still listed as a co-signer. The bill was unpaid. Final notice. Curious. I went to check it out. The manager recognized my name, gave me the key. Inside was a unit barely the size of a closet. But what was in there hit me harder than I expected. 2 boxes. One labeled past and the other future. In past, there were old journals, college photos, stuff I remembered her showing me once, early in our marriage. In future, there were baby books, empty frames, a wedding planner binder, one sheet apparently kept long after our wedding. I flipped through it and found something tucked inside, a handwritten note, to my future self just in case things fall apart. It was dated 2 years before she lost her job. In it, she wrote about feeling stuck, about watching her friends build bigger lives, about wondering if she made the wrong choice marrying me. She wrote, "He's good. He's kind. But maybe I need more than kind." And at the bottom, "If I leave, I hope I don't regret it. If I stay, I hope I can find something to feel again." I sat on the cold cement floor just reading that over and over. She was gone long before she left. I just hadn't seen it. Then a month later, I got another surprise. She reached out. Not directly, through my lawyer. She wanted mediation. Said she didn't want to fight anymore. That she wanted to close this chapter peacefully. I didn't answer for weeks. When I finally did, I told my lawyer to deliver one message. She already closed it. I just turned the page. But the last twist came from someone else entirely. Her mom. She sent me an email. Long, rambling. But there was one paragraph that stayed with me. She said, "She always looked up to you. She just didn't know how to be still." I think she thought breaking something was the only way to feel alive. I never replied, but I saved that email.
I don't know why.
Maybe because part of me still wanted to believe she was broken, not cruel. But I'll never know for sure. And now, every time someone calls me the nice guy, I just smile and nod. Because I've learned something they haven't. That being good doesn't protect you from people who don't know what they want. It just makes you easier to use. I don't tell anyone the whole story anymore. I just keep it quiet. But some nights, when it's late and I'm alone, I still think about that folder she labeled exit plan. And I wonder, how long was I just the practice life before the one she thought she deserved?